Hi guys, thanks for checking in. I'm going to talk today about my frequently asked questions as a marketing consultant and coach. A lot of my questions come in the form of my incoming sales leads. So I find it really interesting that when I get a new lead through, it always starts with a bit of a question. So it could be, hey Jade, I saw your latest video or your post and it really resonated with me. Could I just ask XYZ and how could you help me with this challenge? So what I did was I had a little scroll through my last sort of 10 or 20 sales leads and had a look at if there's anything in common, and they really are. So I've made a few of those, I've jotted a few of those out and I'm going to answer them. I really think that could be a good ticket in, a good way to answer your burning questions if you're a business owner, a business leader, or even a marketing manager or director yourself. So I'll go through those. And I don't know if you saw, thank you if you did and responded, I put out a little note on all my social media channels this morning just to say if there's any questions you'd like me to cover, send them through. So I have quite a few on here and I'm just going to cover the ones I can. So in terms of frequently asked questions, I get asked tons of questions, whether that be in one of my Power Hour consultancy sessions, just through someone sending me a random question because they want to know and they want my expertise, grabbing coffee with someone. And so I've started to see a bit of a trend over my 5 years doing this job as to the typical questions that I get asked. So the first one that comes up all the time is our marketing plan fit for purpose? And what I tend to find with that question is, if you're asking it, you've probably got some concerns about it. So it's really hard for me to answer in a blanket sense because there's so many variables in a marketing plan. Some companies may need like an extremely complex marketing strategy, marketing plan, because they've got lots of different audiences, lots of different products, big goals. They're a larger beast of an organisation. Whereas others, they might not need something so big and complex. They actually just need to do 2 or 3 things really well in order to optimise what they're doing and reach more people and achieve what they need to achieve. The first thing I would say about whether a marketing plan is fit for purpose is, if you have a look at that plan, does it directly answer the question, how are we going to achieve what we need to as a business? If you feel like the plan is quite divorced from what you're doing, there's some problems there. Now, if you're the marketing manager yourself and you feel that way, this doesn't mean that it's all your fault, your marketing plan's terrible, you haven't done it properly. It might mean that you need a bit of guidance and support in getting that to be a well-functioning marketing plan. But it might also be that your business is not set up in terms of the structure of the company in order to make sure that the business strategy planning part of the company and what they're doing at the board level is directly connected with what you're doing as a marketer, or if you're on the board, what your marketing team is doing. So quite often we find that marketing becomes a bit of a tactical department, a bit of an ideas machine. So they're sort of told, this is what we need to do, sort of go off and do your thing and let us know how you get on. But actually marketing needs to be brought in way higher up in the chain and actually influencing that business strategy at the start. If you're interested, I did do a little post on Twitter about this literally this morning, about a client I've worked with who have brought marketing up to board level and really ensured that they put the customer central to everything they do, made sure that their marketing is not just tactical, but it's driven everything they've done in terms of turning themselves around from quite an old school, traditional business development, business to business service company into being quite, adopting some modern marketing principles and really just getting closer to their customer, meeting customer needs and growing quite rapidly at the same time. So there's a tweet thread that I did literally like today, which I'll link in this video. I'm also going to do a video about exactly what we did with that client, so that you can see in real life, what a really good marketing strategic approach looks like and how the marketing plan sat within that. So the first thing to do is, really ask yourself that question. Is everything joined up? If the answer is no, if you would say, no, this plan is just a series of activities and actions and what we're going to do and how much it's going to cost, and it's a bit wishy-washy, it doesn't answer, here's how we will get from A to B. There's a couple of reasons that could be. The first one is that you've tasked someone who is too junior to develop a marketing plan. So really common thing I see is that a marketing manager is asked to develop the marketing strategy without the guidance of a marketing director. Now, you will find exceptionally talented marketing managers who've been doing what they do for years and years and years. As long as they have executed strategies and plans before, and they're confident and comfortable with that, absolutely, go for it. That's fantastic. But generally, a marketing manager would report to a marketing director. That director would sit on the board and inform and influence what the business is doing as a whole, making sure that the customer is central to everything going forward and actually helping inform the growth strategy and then briefing that into their marketing team. If you don't have a board level marketer, if it's not an option for you in terms of you're not large enough to warrant hiring a very senior marketer on your board, you can call upon external consultants and strategists to sort of fill that gap for you. So that's the sort of thing I help my clients with, but this is not about selling to you. This is about providing some advice and valuable content. So that's one of the first reasons. Another reason could be that you've got really talented marketers and they're asking for what they need, but there's just a complete disjoint between what's happening. So they kind of been dragged pillar to post is something I see a lot. So like the sales team want collateral and brochures and materials. They want an email campaign, and one of the directors decided they want a YouTube, and it just becomes this absolute mass of like so much activity that there's no time to just stop, slow down and strategize. Now, if you're finding that you're having like, you're like locking horns a little bit with your marketing department because they're saying we want to be more strategic, we need the time, we're overworked, we need the time to get more strategic, my advice would be to listen to that and spend some time together with them to really look at what they need from you in order to make that strategy and plan more robust. So back to the question, is our marketing plan fit for purpose? What else would I say about that? Okay. It takes a long time to develop a really good marketing plan if you've not done one before. I would say the common holes that I see within marketing plans is this. The objectives section of the marketing plan are often not very measurable. And if they are, they might be quite woolly, like develop a new website and generate 10,000 visits per month. I mean, that's not an objective. That's more of a tactical KPI or even an action that needs to take place. So you would want to really pull back and go way higher up in terms of, I'll give you an example here in relation to, I always like to give financial goal examples because it's a lot easier, but obviously marketing is about a lot more than just the sales. But I'll give a sales example. If the business strategy is we need to attract £1 million of extra work over the coming 24-month period, and it needs to come from these sectors, the marketing objective might be, one of the marketing objectives might be attract 50 additional key accounts over the coming 24 months, each at an average order value of X. So you've got a time frame there, you've got a number there, you've got a value associated. And so then all of the tactical activity and strategies that you'd use would be about what is the most efficient way with resources and budgets in order to get to that objective. So obviously that's really sort of simplifying it, but sometimes that is all it needs to be. Like I work with, some companies I've worked with have got like literally just 2 leadership coaches and they're like, we need to win 50 accounts within a year. And so, the main objective is do that. And then we look at, well, what is going to be the most efficient way to do that? And then go from there. So it doesn't always have to be extremely complex, but yeah, the main thing is just to look at whether or not your plan is robust and measurable enough, and linked directly to what the company needs to be achieving. That's that one. Another one that this is a direct question that I was asked when I received a lead a few weeks ago. Can you help us find out why our marketing isn't really working? I mean, that is such a big question because as a marketing consultant, there could be so many reasons, like it's almost endless. But the conversations usually start with, okay, tell me about the challenge. What is it that's not seeming to be working? Is it that the sales are not coming in? Is it that you're getting the wrong type of business through the door? Is it that your activity is just getting a few likes but not actually converting to anything? Is it that the emails you're sending out are not getting any engagement whatsoever? What is it that you feel isn't really working? I've got a blog post called 4 Reasons Why Your Marketing May Not Be Getting You the Results You Want, and I will link that down in the comments section as well, for you to have a read, because that could be a useful one. And I think that one of the biggest reasons why marketing isn't working, or just strip that back, this was a director saying, can you help me find out why our marketing isn't really working? That usually tells me there's a frustration and a confusion. It's a bit like, well, I know it's not working, but I don't know why. I speak to the marketing team. They sort of give me all these numbers. So they're working hard. I can't exactly, tell them off because they're working really hard. But I'm just not seeing what I need to from our marketing. Is it me? I work with some brilliant clients where they just really want to do their bit to help their marketing department. So yeah, a lot of that question is loaded with sort of frustration and uncertainty. What is it? Why is this happening? And honestly, there isn't like a quick, here's the answer, just turn it around, it's fine, just do this, let go of your team, hire someone new, upskill your team. It is a bit more complex than that. So a lot of my work, and a lot of the work in order to get to the root of that question, is let's really dig into what you're doing now. Are you certain as to what each marketing activity that you're investing in, are you certain as to what that's doing, and importantly, what it's supposed to be doing? Did you even give goals or is it linked to a wider strategy? So when I talk about strategies, it sounds a bit like a silly buzzword, like I'll just throw the word strategy around. But what I mean by it, a really good way to explain the word marketing strategies is, what are the big things we need to do? So we've got these objectives. In order to get to those objectives, in order to achieve that growth that we need, what are the big things that we need to do? And that's such a nice way, especially if you're a marketer yourself, that's such a nice way to just break down that word, which can sound a bit like just jargon thrown around the room. Oh yes, the strategy. No, we're talking about what are the big things we need to do. So is it that we actually do need a full website overhaul? Is it that we need to bring about email automation because we've got thousands of contacts and our sales team are not managing to keep on top of nurturing and hand-holding these people throughout their purchasing journey? Is it that we need to work on our content, our brand building? Whatever it is, what are the big things we need to do? And so then looking at each activity and saying, A, is it achieving anything at all? Are we confident that we know what it's achieving? And by that, I don't mean the sort of metrics such as, are we getting likes on our social media posts? Are we getting website traffic? Are we getting views on our blog? I don't mean those. Those are nice metrics to help you understand if you're in and around the right track. Those are the types of metrics to look at to go, oh wow, we're getting loads of leads through your social media marketing. Let's have a little look at what has been the most engaging content, so we can learn from that and do even more of those posts that are really engaging with our audiences. So they're not useless, but on their own, they don't really mean very much. So yeah, looking at whether or not each activity is A, achieving something, and B, are we confident as to what strategy that tactic is upholding? So if we've got a bigger strategy as to how we're going to get our objectives achieved, what is this tactic doing in order to deliver on that strategy? And that's a really nice way to look at the different activities that you've got set up in your plan and to really understand, are we just doing this because we think this is what should be done, or because this is what we've always done, or we saw a competitor do that, I've seen that competitor's doing that, it must be right. Look, here's a hack. Just because your competitor's doing something does not make it good or right. So I would say actually focus less on your competitors and just really look at tightening up what you're doing. It may also be that there's too much going on. Now, I'm in love with the idea that a company could employ just a few tactics in order to achieve their overarching goals. You know, if it's just about optimizing some buyer journeys, better equipping the sales staff, bringing in some kind of new technique that hasn't been tried before, if that is what gets you to where you need to go, absolutely brilliant. You know, I'm not about encouraging businesses to take on more than they can handle. So again, help us find out why our marketing isn't really working. So often it's that there's just too much going on, and channels are not given the time they need in order to actually be effective. So marketing channels form like a sort of web. You know, you could say, oh, we're going to put out some really good content on social media. And what I mean by content is you're providing something of value to the people that you're selling to help them with a problem they face in their day or their life or their job. And you're giving that with no agenda. You want to help them. Your business wants to help them so that eventually you're the partner they choose to pay for the help that they need. So if you're putting out loads of content and it's really high value and people are starting to take up that content, but after a few months you're like, oh, we didn't get any leads, so we will stop doing that. Let's try something else. Oh, we'll try this over here now. We'll try emailing our customers with an offer or a promotion. Oh yeah, we got a quick burst of sales, but nothing really worked. Let's try something else. What I'm here to say is that it's about the overarching strategic approach, and that longer buyer journey, may not be a long buyer journey, but let's go with long buyer journey, of what are the different things we need to do? What are the different parts of the jigsaw puzzle that overall are going to build trust with our customers and have them return to us? So try not to jump around to too many different activities. Doing that work at the start to be really strategic in what you're doing and picking the right channels at the start will really set you up for having the confidence in the approach that you're taking. I think it'd probably be a good time to give an example of how this works in practice in terms of the importance of brand building and using different channels in your marketing. So I'll tell you how I get my business, or how I win my clients. Now, I have been building my own brand, my personal brand, probably for about 10 years, being honest. I always had an inkling that I would want to do my own thing, but I've just been authentically sharing valuable advice and tips because I love marketing. I love talking about it. An old boss actually laughed at me once because he asked me what my hobby was, and I actually said marketing because, I'm sorry, it's true. So I've just always done this. I've been quieter the last couple of years because I've been super busy and I'm a mum now, but I'm back on it. So how do I win my work? I consistently provide valuable advice on LinkedIn, on my website, writing blogs. Whenever I put out a video, I make sure that it's really tailored to a direct challenge that my target customer would be facing. So typically, if I put out a video, I'll get quite like 3 to 4 inquiries off the back of it, which, given that I'm just me on my own and I don't take on that many projects myself, because I really like to give them my focus and I'm not about burnout, that's a perfect number for me. And they're a great fit lead for me because I'm obviously, the content I'm putting out is specific to the person I'm targeting. So my strategy is put out valuable content that's tailored to the people who would need it in relation to the problem they're facing, so that the only people who will watch it would be my target customer. Share it across multiple platforms, perhaps email it out to my database. And then when the opportunities come in, they're quite far down the buyer journey, because I will have noticed this. Let's an example of a lead a few weeks ago. What was happening was they had followed me on Twitter and connected me on LinkedIn because they'd seen a video that I had done, which I'd sort of promoted. I think I'd promoted it on LinkedIn, and then they'd found me on Twitter, and then they liked, like, literally, it's over like 6 weeks. I can see when I'm about to get an inquiry. Over about 6 weeks, they liked, the odd LinkedIn post that I was putting, and then they really just started to engage more and more with my content. And then I just got an email, an inbox message on LinkedIn to say, hi Jade, we're not really sure if we've got a strategy in place. All we know is it's not really working. Could we have a chat? So they sort of jumped straight into, what do you sell? Can we work together? So typically, and on every opportunity I work on, it typically jumps straight into proposal stage because most of my marketing is before that inquiry that I receive. So if you start to think of your marketing like that, if I was a big corporate, I could be like, well, we've done these videos and you've been posting for like 2 years or whatever. Well, you haven't got any leads from Twitter, but even, I have, but people have come across on LinkedIn or whatever else. So it's just about thinking about the bigger picture of the marketing. Obviously, that's a really simple example of my business, but it just goes to show how brand building can often be seen as, oh, well, yeah, that's an optional extra, but actually it can make all the difference between having inbound inquiries that are really qualified. I get that I want to work with you. How does it work? How can you help me? They've already got trust in what I'm saying because I've made it my mission to help them and provide free advice that's going to make their job easier. And then they're like, oh, I really need to work with you. So have a think about those things as well. Try not to write off marketing activities just because they're not giving you that quick sell. It's about the bigger orchestrated picture. The other one to mention, just to wrap up this question, obviously I'm super passionate about this question, is marketing is a very specialist skill. One of my biggest frustrations with our sector is that anybody can do it. Now, I love that because there are some incredible marketers that I know in my network who aren't actually professionally qualified, but they're incredible. They've learned through experience. They've tried and tested everything. They've worked their butts off. But what it also means is that you could literally just get a person who's worked in one particular role and go, oh yeah, you take charge of marketing now. And they're like, and they do their best. They've got all the will in the world. They're a motivated person. They're talented as a worker. They've got good ethos, but they're not a marketer. Now, marketing, if you want to be good at it and if you want to be strategic with it, takes work. I spend so much time keeping on top of what is the latest thing to be doing, how do marketing models work in real life, what is that challenge, what's the best way to come at it, endless things. So it's a specialist skill. It is not just something that you try out. And I think because it's so easily accessible to just do marketing, often we're losing touch with the fact that a very experienced senior professional marketer is needed in order to direct and advise and guide on what we should do with our marketing. So just to wrap up that question, ask yourself, who is the most senior marketing person that is influencing what we do for our marketing? And if the answer is a marketing executive, that is your answer. Those guys, they need leadership from senior marketers. They're learning the trade. I actually put a reel on my Instagram earlier today. Have a look. It's embarrassing, but it was like reflecting on my first ever marketing plan that I ever wrote in 2009 when I was a junior marketer. And my boss was a bit like, yeah, Jade, there's quite a few holes in this. And that was great because I was learning. But if I didn't have that boss to teach me and to show me the way, what would I have done? So that's a good one. Okay. Next question that I get really often is, do we need a rebrand? Okay. So I'm just going to start this by saying I love a rebrand. When a company actually does need one, it's the best thing in the world. I love it. I love the creative process. I love the colour palettes. I love the fonts. I love the imagery. I love coming up with a really strong brand positioning for a company and then seeing how that translates into a brand narrative and a creative and looking at how we can set them apart, not just in how they look, but in how they're answering the question of here's how we can best solve your problem better than the other options available. So, okay, do you need a rebrand? You might need a rebrand. You might feel that your brand looks a little bit messy, needs a bit of tidying up. Maybe. I don't mind so much about that stuff. If you were a company who is super profitable, your customers coming back to you time and time again because they really trust your brand, they really love what you do, you've got fantastic customer service, your product works, you're meeting their needs. If your only problem is that you feel like the logo looks a bit dated and you could do with freshening things up, yeah, absolutely, why not? That's great. That's a great thing to do, you know, if you've got the resource and you've got the budget. But I wouldn't be panicking about it and thinking, oh, this is horrendous, we look awful. If the business is working, yeah, it's lovely to have a facelift. What does concern me is when businesses do have fundamental issues with their brand positioning, their strategy, their marketing, and they try and fix it with a rebrand. Now, when I say rebrand, I'll talk about rebrand in the sense of having a new logo, having a new website, and giving the brand a bit of a facelift. The reason that can be a bit problematic is if we've sort of skipped the stage of looking at how do we articulate our point of difference, and that sounds so jargony, I'm going to reword it. How do we answer the question to our customers? Here's how we can help you with the problem that you have better than those other options that you have available to you. And then absolutely, as we go through that process, if we need to refresh the brand along the way, spot on, do it. But what I'm more interested in is resonating with your ideal client, reaching your ideal client, and encouraging them to take action. And that typically is through the messaging, the brand positioning, and how you're communicating the ways in which you can solve their problem. So it's not a flat no on do we need to rebrand, but I have loads and loads of questions for you before I recommend a rebrand. It's suddenly gone really dark, so I'm sorry. I need to get myself one of these lights. It's like this time of year, it's just gone really dark, so hopefully you can still see me. I had a question through on Twitter actually, and it says, would you rather have 1 million people use your product or 10,000 people use your product 10 times more often? Wow, I love fun questions. That's a fun question. It depends what the product is, doesn't it? Because like if you're selling hairbrushes, you wouldn't want someone to have to use your product 10 times more often. So you'd want to reach the 1 million people using your particular hairbrush. So it really depends on the product, I imagine. If it's aimed at me, would I rather 1 million people? I would rather 10,000 people use my product often. So like, for example, if I did a course for marketing managers to help them, you know, improve their marketing planning processes, I would love it if that was so useful to them that they wanted to jump into my course twice a week instead of once every month. So it really depends on your audiences, doesn't it? And your service. But it's a nice thing for you guys to think about. What would you rather? Would you rather have loads and loads and loads of people use your product, or a small amount of people use your product more often? So my answer is the smaller number. And this brings me into something I want to cover on another video, which is, you know, about niches and not chasing for numbers. Like your database doesn't need to be, you know, hundreds of thousands of people if your target market is quite niche. So again, focusing on your content and making sure that it's absolutely really focused on the problems that you solve and how you make the lives of your customers easier, then you're going to attract the ideal fit person for what you do. And if that ideal fit person is 1 million consumers around the UK, so be it. If it's 50 local people who would spend, you know, a nice chunk of money with you and time with you, great. So that's my thoughts on that question. I've been talking for ages, so I'm just gonna do one more question. I'm struggling with setting marketing objectives. What can I do to set them up properly? The first thing you can do is talk to, so this, I assume that you're a marketing manager, the person asking me this. Yeah, it's a marketing manager. I would say talk to whoever's most senior in relation to who you report to, and really ask them to break down to you, what does the company need to achieve in an overall sense? So where are we going? Really start to ask questions, to soak it up like a sponge and start to think about what can we do as a marketing function to help the business get where it needs to go in the most efficient way possible with the resources we have. Now, setting marketing objectives should always be that after, say, a 6-month period or a 12-month period, you can directly answer that you achieved them, and that the achievement of them is something concrete for the business in relation to its growth or customers being satisfied or anything at all. But it won't be things like, did we launch a new website? Because that's tactical. So you don't want to be putting anything down that's more like an action. It's not on a list of actions. That comes much later. It needs to be solid foundations for you to build your marketing off the back of. So thank you for that question. It is really hard to write marketing objectives. I think I'll do like maybe an article or even like a freebie piece of content to help you with that one, because I remember that feeling really well, especially when I was a marketing executive and I was quite new to marketing. It was really difficult, and sometimes it was difficult because actually the organisation I was working with were not particularly well set up from a strategic point of view. So again, a lot of the work I do with clients is helping them to see that before we jump into marketing, there is actually some work to tidy up the mission, vision and overall business objectives, and making sure that the company is built around the customer and we've got an understanding of the customer. So for that one, it's a big question. Yeah, have a chat with the most senior people that you report to, or your boss who hopefully is a marketer. If not, feel free to drop me another message if you've got further follow-up questions, and I will try and do a bit of a video on that topic specifically as well. I hope you found that useful. If you've got any questions in relation to your marketing or your job as a marketing manager, just comment below. I'm always really happy to see that a new topic for another video that I could cover. So just let me know if there's anything that I covered that you could use a bit more clarification on. And I hope you found this useful, and I will check in again next week with another video. Thanks so much.